Planning and scheduling a job is one of the most important things to set you up for success during the construction management process, right? So what I like to do is first is look at the scope of work for every subcontractor, right? And everything that's going to go into it, right? And think of all the small details, right? Now, this is where you're going to work with your subcontractors and other people that have experience in housing, right? Because you might overlook some of the small things, right? Now, let's say you're trying to get an airtight house, right? And one of the things you're going to do is you're going to caulk the baseboards right after drywall goes in before finished carpentry goes in. So you got caulking. Next thing you're going to look at is who's going to perform that scope of work. Is that going to be your drywall crew? Or is it going to be self-performed by someone in the company or by you as the project manager? Now, the reason this is important is so I can schedule. If I'm going to self-perform, I can schedule in the day when I'm going to be there. Because the last thing you want is you have all these things set up, you've got important things going on, and now you got to go to a house for 6 hours of the day to caulk the little trim. Now, ideally, sub that out or someone else does it because you have bigger picture stuff to focus on, right? Then you got framing. Okay, what company or who's gonna do that, right? We'll just say Framers Incorporated, right? I don't know if that's an actual company, but okay, we found who's gonna do our framing. The next thing is there might be little details in the framing that set you up for success, right? Maybe you want an outlet box on a certain place in the wall and it needs to be anchored into a stud. Who's going to place that stud? Is it going to be the electrician or is it going to be the framers? Thinking about these little details up ahead can help save you headache in the moment when everyone's already left the job site and people are like, well, that person needs to do it and they refuse to do it. So that's just scope of work, and that's just all the details, who's going to do them, right? The next thing we want to look at is asking the subcontractors or tradesmen 3 important questions to understand what they need to be done in their areas of work. First, how much notice do you need to be where I need you? Now, this just helps set me up for success to know on average, this is how far ahead do I need to look for to notify my subcontractors that their scope of work is coming up, right? Now, ideally, I have everything planned out and scheduled in their schedules before the job site comes along. But I've found, and I'm sure you've found before, that you need to remind them along the way, right? And so if on average, if I'm finding my subcontractors need 2 to 3 weeks notice to get me in their calendar, about 3.5 weeks before, 4 weeks, I'm double checking with them saying, hey, everything's on track, on schedule. This is the day you need to show up to start your scope of work, and this is when you need to be done, right? Maybe remind them again as you get closer, right? Re-verify. If you give a subcontractor 4 months notice of when they need to show up, some subcontractors are really good and they show up when you say they need to show up. But most, in my experience, they do need little reminders along the way. Now, the second thing is to ask, how much time do you need to complete your work? The reason I ask this is to find the left and right limits of when they're going to begin and when they're going to end. And this just helps me know when I can put my next subcontractors in to follow behind them, right? The third thing, what do you need order to complete? The reason we ask this is we can help find out a little details of what subcontractors need to do before a subcontractor comes in and what they need to have done before the next subcontractor comes in. Because sometimes the plumbers are like, hey, we need an electrical outlet underneath the sink so we can check the garbage disposal. Those little details, you're like, okay, we're going to consider that into planning so you can make sure they're in place, because the plumbers are like, we're only going to be there one day to finish out our plumbing and we're gone. And we want to test to make sure the garbage disposal is good before we leave, right? So the next thing I would want to look at is splitting the house into zones, right? Into different areas. So if we got a big house and it's got 1, 2, 3 floors, and let's say it's a big enough house that it takes 20 days to complete painting, and then it takes 5 days to do finished electrical and plumbing, right? So if I split this into 3 different levels, and we split those levels by 20 divided by 3 equals 6 point something days. So we'll just put it into 7 days to round up to 7. So now painting's going to take 21 days, but it's going to be split up into 7-day increments. But plumbing and electrical and finish heating all takes 5 days to do that. So if we're able to split those 3 things into the different levels, it takes them a day and a half on each level, and you got plumbing and electrical done here, and then you got it done here, right? And so now it's 2 days here till it finishes here, so it's 2 days, right, after a 3rd floor. So in total, it would take 23 days. So if this was 23 days, and this is 25 days, we're saving ourselves 2 days on the schedule. I remember touring a big deconstruction site and walking with one of the superintendents. It was a big project, but they had it split up into several zones. And so it's like one big building, 3 different floors, and basically they had 4 big sections of building throughout, and they just split their inspections and everything into different zones. So, and as they go through, zone 1 was finished and zone 9 could still be getting framed up, right? And that's how they sequence it out, right? Because imagine if you wait until zone 9 is done with framing before you start the rough trades, this could be months and weeks of difference, right? But applying those same principles and doing those things in smaller projects is still good sound planning. Now, the last thing is to look at weather considerations. If you're excavating in the winter, you're doing framing in the winter, you're roofing, exterior in the winter, those are things you need to consider that you might have to look at adding rain days and just putting in buffer days into those things. So when it does rain and it does snow, you already have those days built into your schedule. Now, I know there's some differing opinions about this. Some people say you put the schedule as it is and you just run it, right? Now, I like to add those buffer days into the winter time because if you're working with a client, you're like, realistically, this is what it'll look like because we're doing these certain scopes of work in the winter, right? So when there is shifts in the schedule, it's not as detrimental to expectations because you've already built those days in, right? If you don't need to use those days, those are good because then, if possible, you can move your schedule up and you're meeting and exceeding the customer's expectation on the timeline, right? That's just what I think about planning and scheduling and how I like to do it. There's still things I'm learning as I continue reading and watching videos and interviewing people and seeing their insights on how they do stuff. But I think those are sound principles, and I think that will set you up for success. Before I go, if you want to work with me, you can reach out via email and send me some of your projects that you're working on. I want to test my skills. I want to see what I can do and accomplish and do fun stuff like that. So if you're a custom home builder, reach out to me. My email will be after this video clip. It's also on my website. Feel free to continue exploring my website.